long-running video game characters evolve in appearance over time, but none have undergone more redesigns in less time than the industry's second most famous Italian, Luigi. From his early 80s inception until 2001, Luigi was a victim of competing egos and office politics, receiving frequent radical design overhauls to his sprites and official appearance, often multiple times a year. Please join us for a documentary presentation on one of the most tumultuous times in Nintendo's long and storied history, though variously referred to by video game historians and industry veterans as the War of the Noses, the Green Revolution, even the Battle of Spaghettisburg. It's mostly known simply as the Ouija Wars.
Coming to you from beautiful downtown Fortitude Valley, it's the Harry Gold Show, with your host, Harry Gold.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the program. Luigi was originally created in early 1983 when Nintendo decided to spin off the human protagonist of arcade hit Donkey Kong into his own series. Mario Bros, named of course for Argentinian rabbi Mario Roisman, called for a second player character, so its co-creators Shigeru Miyamoto and Gunpei Yokoi decided to give Mario a younger brother. This is where the previously smooth dev cycle started to become contentious. Miyamoto strongly believed that Luigi should be Mario's identical twin. Not only was it a practical solution to the hardware's technical limitations, seeing as the programmers could simply swap the palette on Mario's sprite, but he also insisted that differentiating them was pointless, seeing as white people all look the same to him anyway. To that same end, without the technical capacity to include text-based exposition in the game, Miyamoto aimed to communicate the brothers' ethnicity to players visually, by making them immensely fat with huge bulging eyes and oversized hook noses. He also insisted that, despite now working in sanitation, the Mario brothers definitely should not wear gloves. But co-creator Gunpei Yokoi had other ideas. Yokoi believed that, as Mario was short and chubby, Luigi ought to contrast this by being taller and slimmer. He also contested that, seeing as Mario is not naked and hairless with charcoal skin or magical invisible biceps, Luigi would naturally be the opposite in all of those regards as well. Miyamoto dismissed these ideas, confident in the knowledge that he had the final say over this game's designs. Little did he realize the R&D team were concurrently developing a handheld adaptation without him, under Yokoi's supervision. Not only did the Game & Watch version implement Yokoi's designs instead, but, due to the simpler hardware, it was even finished faster than the full arcade release, making it technically Luigi's official debut. To nobody's surprise, Miyamoto was not pleased. But first, before we hear about that, this episode of The Harry Gold Show was brought to you by Proton.
Hey there, I'm a file saved, your average cloud storage service.
And I'm a file stored by Proton Drive.
So Mac, Halloween come early or what?
Nay sir, Proton Drive offers up to 2 terabytes of secure and private cloud storage, all armored with end-to-end encryption by default.
Oh yeah, how do you tell one end of an encryption from the other anyhow?
Just do not sir, because of these fortifications, no advertiser, AI or third party can access my contents or purchase my data. In fact, not even Proton Drive itself is privy to what lies within. You won't get that from the big tech companies sir.
Yeah, you worry too much. If someone was rummaging through my files, don't you think I'd be the first to notice?
They also benefit from robust legal privacy protections, because their legal home is in Europe, free from big tech surveillance. And Proton Mail is equally secure, sir. Hides your real email address to prevent phishing attacks and reduce spam. And keeps your email subscriptions in one place, so unsubscribing and decluttering has never been easier. All in one simple subscription that syncs across devices.
Why would I? On second thought, where can I find your tailor?
Don't let big tech profit by invading your privacy, sir. Support this channel by signing up to Proton for free today. Proton, privacy by default.
Nonetheless, with Mario Bros proving successful, Miyamoto then moved into the development cycle for his next big project in the series, an expanded platformer adventure for the NES called Super Mario Bros. This time, Miyamoto was the director, designer, and producer, ensuring he could avoid Yokoi's meddling entirely. What he did not count on, however, was the game's co-designer Takashi Tezuka having ideas of his own. Though returned to identical twin status at Miyamoto's behest, Tezuka's Luigi was a small orange man sporting gleaming white overalls and verdant green hair, inspired by his love of 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and its Oompa Loompa workforce. Super Mario Bros. Went on to become the best-selling game on the platform at more than 40 million units to date, and Miyamoto's feelings were mixed. Though this meant his original vision for the character would never be the most well-known, at least it meant Yokoi's wouldn't be either. Yokoi himself, however, was not so easily deterred. All the while, he had been producing a new Mario game of his own, Wrecking Crew for the arcade. Under director Satoru Okada, Mario's younger sibling now wore hot pink overalls and no shirt. His bushy moustache was now blue, its third color in as many games, with beady soulless eyes in a matching hue and pouchy chipmunk-esque cheeks. While Yokoi was not particularly satisfied with this version of the character, he was glad it remained at least partially unclothed. Miyamoto, meanwhile, was incensed. Not only was his vision for Luigi further undermined, but Yokoi had once again beaten his game to store shelves by a matter of months. Enter director Kensuke Tanabe, who in 1988 hoped to mediate between his feuding colleagues by bringing together elements from all of the other four men. Super Mario Bros. 2 brought back Okada's beady blue eyes and mustache, Tezuka's green shirt and shoes, Yokoi's taller proportions, and Miyamoto's original pinkish complexion. After seeing this compromised design, the four men all apologized to one another and thanked Tanabe, promising to set their differences aside for the shared good of the character and the company. Until, of course, the very second the character was back in Miyamoto's control. Super Mario Bros. 3 sent Luigi straight back to being Mario's identical twin, and wrestling with Tezuka for influence resulted in a new middle ground. Less chubby than Miyamoto's original vision, but not as squat as Tezuka's either. While frustrated by each other's interference, they both agreed it was at least better than allowing Yokoi to have his way. At this point, the dev teams began to splinter into Miyamoto and Yokoi supporting factions. After the latter was supposedly coincidentally assigned to create Super Mario Land, a game in which Luigi does not even appear, known Miyamoto ally Hirojuki Atake, while innocently espousing Yokoi's talents and virtues to his superiors, was heard to have proposed that Yokoi would best be utilized on the next 2 Super Mario Land games. And it just so happened that the resulting assignment to these Luigi-free Mario projects would keep Yokoi occupied for years. So for a time, it seemed a now conspicuously self-satisfied Miyamoto had finally won the metaphorical tug-of-war. That was until a despondent Yokoi was assigned to concurrently produce Tetris for the Game Boy. He saw his opportunity and seized it. Anticipating high sales based on the arcade version's monumental success, Yokoi promptly made an informal truce with Okuda to create a new Luigi design that merged their sensibilities. Though not completely charcoal-colored, he was now at least all in shades of grey, as well as taller to spite Miyamoto's twin fixation. Yokoi then shoehorned this new version of the plumber into Tetris to maximize its exposure, 35 million units sold as it would turn out, and solidify his own iteration as one of, if not the, most widely seen versions of the character. Miyamoto was already incensed by this, but an even greater blow was just around the corner. When DiC Entertainment partnered with Nintendo to create the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, studio head Andy Hayward needed to choose the most appealing and marketable version of the character to base his on, and landed on Yokoi and Kensuke Tanabe's taller, lankier iteration, while rejecting the identical twin idea outright. Notably, this also marked the first time Luigi's hat had an L emblem on it, in hopes of cashing in on the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Director of 1990s Golf, Kenji Miki, was firmly in the Miyamoto camp, however, bringing Luigi back to being squat, round, and identical to Mario. Eager to curry favor with Miyamoto, Miki even returned to the boggle eyes of the original arcade design, which he hadn't sported in nearly a decade, and inverted Tetris's grey-white palette in a veiled shot at Yokoi. He even based Luigi's mustache on Miyamoto's favorite then-living world leader. That same year, with Tezuka in the director's chair, Super Mario World continued the squat, round identicality that Miyamoto demanded, even returning to the purple, green, and brown color palette of his original design. But despite the moves he made to appease Miyamoto, all hell broke loose when Tezuka made a power play of his own. Against nearly a decade of precedent and Miyamoto's express wishes, he gave Luigi gloves. As a result, the development cycle of NES Open Tournament Golf was mired in arguments, screaming matches, and even physical altercations. Director Kenji Miki tried desperately to get things back on track, ditching the gloves from Luigi's design immediately. However, Gunpei Yokoi sympathizers within the design team, dissatisfied with how he'd been treated, railroaded the new versions of the character back into being tall with a black shirt, in homage to his original vision for the Game & Watch. And, adding insult to injury, management then made another devastating move for Miyamoto. They simultaneously contracted 4 different outside studios, and worst yet, 3 of them were foreigners. The first among them was Donald W. Labs, the game designer from the Software Toolworks, who was tasked with creating a Mario-themed edutainment game for the PC called Mario is Missing, in an early example of their long-standing marketing strategy to corner the infant demographic. Unaware of Nintendo's internal turmoil, Labs set about synthesizing a new design for Luigi, drawing from everything that had come before. The height of Yokoi's camp mixed with the green shirt and big eyes of Miyamoto's, and even Deke's monogrammed cap. But despite this balanced approach, he also opted to give Luigi gloves, in line with his then most recent appearance, inadvertently making Miyamoto an enemy for life. Meanwhile, a new design was created also for the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie. Co-directors Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel brought their own ideas to the table, like the jumpsuit and baseball cap replacing his usual outfit. However, the leanness and lack of facial hair, once again referencing Yokoi's original design, only served to further enrage Miyamoto. The very next month brought yet another player, director Satoshi Tajiri of Game Freak, and his own vision for how Luigi should be in 1993's Mario and Wario. This was a complete reversal, giving Luigi a gigantic head, huge nose and no chin, with a pronounced stooping posture and no more beady eyes. Then Hotel Mario arrived. Developed by Stephen Radosh for the Philips CDI, who had licensed the Mario Brothers for a game, his take on Luigi was a step back in Miyamoto's direction. He made it round, squat and identical to Mario with big googly eyes and legs shortened to the cusp of non-existence. But wanting to bring at least something of his own to the table, Radosh also decided to give Luigi a single tooth and pronounced monobrow. Then finally, in 1995, the Miyamoto camp's Machiavellian maneuvering finally faltered. After being kept from Luigi for several years, Gunpei Yokoi tore back onto the scene, not only helming a new Mario game titled Mario's Tennis, but directing the creation of the console itself, the Virtual Boy. In a bid to synergize the brand and make Luigi his own once and for all, not only did Yokoi return the plumber to the taller form he knew Miyamoto hated, but he decided Luigi must now be entirely red, clothes, skin, even his eyes, to match the color of the Virtual Boy itself. But in his haste and excitement, Yokoi had made a catastrophic miscalculation. Players reported headaches from staring at Yokoi's new blood-red designs for more than a few seconds, and as a result, the Virtual Boy became a massive financial failure for Nintendo. The upper management, furious at this, fired Yokoi, putting an abrupt stop to the more than decade-long feud for control of the gaming world's second most popular Italian. With Yokoi neatly squeezed out of the picture, Miyamoto was jubilant. Under his uncontested supervision, co-director Chihiro Fujioka maintained the large eyes, small body, and round head that had been perpetuated by Miyamoto's other acolytes. He even gave Luigi a mustache inspired by Miyamoto's other favorite world leader. But even with Yokoi himself gone from Nintendo, his allies at the R&D team were not yet finished. 1997's Game & Watch Gallery saw them push back hard, bringing back Yokoi's earlier taller stature and muted color palette. Then 1998's Mario Party marked Luigi's debut in full 3D on the Nintendo 64. Director Kenji Kikuchi from Hudson Soft believed the new era called for a new design, insisting on an edgy, angular approach with a mustache lacking any depth whatsoever. And 1999 saw Yokoi's loyalists still forging ahead. Hoping to make Hudson Soft's team an ally against Miyamoto's clique, Game & Watch Gallery 3's iteration of Luigi attempted to strike a compromise position by combining Kikuchi's green version with the grey of Yokoi's. Director Shugo Takahashi, meanwhile, was in charge of 2000's Mario Tennis for the Game Boy. In hopes of pleasing Miyamoto, he not only brought back the squat twin concept, but doubled down on it, giving Luigi his smallest body to date. This was not enough for Miyamoto, however. He demanded absolute control, and his anger and resentment at the constant interference were now at a fever pitch. Overseeing Mario Kart Super Circuit, he decided to make the character disproportionately tall in mocking parody of his opponent's design, while maintaining the previous version's grotesquely short arms as a deliberate, spiteful dig. While Miyamoto's faction were all very amused by this, the customers were not. Complaints from consumers about how inconsistent and grotesque Luigi's design was rolled in, and sales for his merchandise hit an all-time low. This was the last proverbial straw for the president of Nintendo, Hiroshi Yamauchi. Now fully aware of this infighting, and more importantly its effect on his bottom line, he issued a reprimand to all of the company's leadership, politely threatened Miyamoto with grievous bodily injury, and demanded Luigi be given a permanent design that the directors and producers were henceforth forbidden from meddling with. As such, he issued a directive that the version of Luigi from his personal favourite game be polished up for use on modern hardware and locked in forever. Which is, of course, how the design from Mario is Missing became the final version of Luigi we all know and love today. And that concludes our retrospective on Luigi's design evolution. I hope you found this to be both informative and entertaining, and if you did, please join us next time and consider watching more of our educational video game docs. Let's play a game. I'll draw someone famous, and 3 people that guess who it is in the comments get a shout out in the next episode. If your guess last time was talk show host Conan O'Brien, then you were absolutely correct. Coco's rule from the Wheel of Winners is the 3 correct guesses with the highest number in their username. Daniel Lave washed away the competition, taking first with 25,280. No F's in the chat for Roberto, that 12,567, getting him to second. And Maya Gacha had a good pull, landing third with 12,321. Well done everyone, thanks for playing. The cheeks on this week's subject are so hollow that anyone who leans in to whisper can hear their own echo. Their eyelids are so heavy and sunken that they used to work part-time as a cruise liner's spare anchor. And this person's scalp is frequently as follicularly unencumbered as an egg hard-boiled in Nair. Now who could this be? If you know who that was, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to wage your own war on that subscribe button. But this has been the Harry Gold Show, so until next time, stay safe, and God bless.